Hi folks, I'm Callie Ritter from Positive Ripple Training and Consulting, and I want to share with you a couple of pictures. This first one is of my sweet girl Hazel, and the next image is of my adorable puppy Roxy. These are my two gorgeous girls, and I'll circle back and say a little bit more about them in just a second. So here we are, we're still in the COVID quarantine, and in the last couple of weeks I've delivered so many webinars about best practices for working remotely, best practices for leading and managing remotely. And my favorite part of the webinar is at the end when people get in the chat box and they tell me what their takeaway was from the seminar. And over, people have been saying it was the conversation around anchor behaviors that was the most important part for them. So let me tell you a quick story. In December of last year, I got injured, and I'm a runner, and that injury meant that I couldn't run for 3 months. So no running in December, January, and February. Well, then fast forward, January hits, and things get really tough for me because on January 1st, my dear sweet Hazel passed away. She died suddenly, and I was left brokenhearted. And what made it worse, what made the grief worse, was the fact that I was missing out on two anchor behaviors. I could not run, nor could I go and get up bright and early in the morning and take a dog for a walk. Those were two things that I rely on to feel well and to feel right. So let's talk about anchor behaviors and what they are. So I just said it, they're behaviors that allow me and also you to feel well and right. They allow us to feel centered. Anchor behaviors allow us to feel confident and competent. Anchor behaviors allow us to bring the best part of ourselves to our day. They give us energy, and sometimes if they're in the middle of the day, they re-energize us or allow us to refocus and re-engage with our work. So anchor behaviors are really important to all of us. And right now, some of those anchor behaviors, they've been disrupted. So with the COVID quarantine and having to work remotely, some of us aren't able to do those core behaviors, those everyday behaviors, like maybe you stop at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts on your way to work. Well, can't do that right now. Or maybe it's you've historically been listening to audiobooks or talk radio as you've commuted in and out of work. Well, you're probably not doing that right now either. So I'd love you to think right now about your anchor behaviors, the behaviors that make you feel well, right, and allow you to bring your best self forward. What are the behaviors that you've historically done? Can you tweak those so that you can still do them right now while working remotely? Are there perhaps new behaviors that you're adding in? So while January was not a great month for me and February was a little tough, I will tell you that my March improved dramatically because at the end of February, I opened up my heart and I added a new puppy into my world and incorporated her into our family. So again, this is Roxy, my new puppy. I also call her my quarantine puppy. There's nothing better than a puppy during quarantine. And she's brought a lot of pleasure into my life, but she's allowed me to access a core anchor behavior, which is getting up every morning and walking the dog. I am also off the injured reserve list, and I am back running again, which is really important to me because I've had a date circled on my calendar for a long time now, and that is April 20th. That date has passed, but that was to be the running of the Boston Marathon. And I am training for the Boston Marathon. So now I have a new date in September that I'm looking forward to. And again, that anchor behavior of running is back in my life. But I want to share with you something else, which is a new anchor behavior. I've had a couple of them come into my life while working remotely. And the one I want to share is this. It's 5:30. 5:30 every day, my hands come off the keyboard. I latch the dog onto a leash, and then we head out the front door because at 5:30, all of my neighbors are coming out of their home. We are seeing people in real life, even though we are socially distancing from one another. We are walking for 20 minutes around the neighborhood, just chatting, and then going back home for dinner and whatever else. But at 5:30, I see people, which is important, but most importantly, this new anchor behavior allows me to end or put a significant break in my workday. So that's all I want to say about my anchor behaviors, but I would love to hear from you about what your anchor behaviors are, what you've historically done, what you've continued to do, or maybe what you've just started doing new with working remotely and living through quarantine. So thank you very much. Reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for clicking through, and I hope that you're continuing to positively ripple out there in your home, out there in your workplaces, and out there in your community. So be well and stay well.